Hi, I'm Kathy Daneman, and on behalf of Mystery Writers of America, welcome to a discussion with our nominees for the G.P. Putnam Sons Sue Grafton Memorial Award. You can learn about upcoming Edgar panels by following us on social media at the hashtag Edgars2022 or by visiting the websites mysterywriters.org and edgarawards.com. You can watch the Edgar Awards live streamed on April 28th on our YouTube channel. Tonight I will be posting a link to our panelists' books in the chat. Today's bookseller is Once Upon a Crime in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Please submit questions in the Q&A box throughout the discussion, and we'll get to them toward the end of the hour. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the evening, Reed Bunzel. Reed is the author of half a dozen crime novels and thrillers, as well as several nonfiction books. He also is the editor-publisher of Bunzelgram, a weekly newsletter that focuses on mysteries and thrillers, both in print and on the screen. Bunzel's fiction work includes the Jack Connor Mystery Series, 7:30 Thursday, and Pay for Play. His nonfiction includes California Style, the Joe Corrett story, and Clear Vision, the story of Clear Channel Communications. A graduate of Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine, Bunzel holds a degree in anthropology cum laude. A native of the San Francisco Bay Area, he currently resides with his wife Diana in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you. Reed?
All right, thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate all of you tuning in tonight for this wonderful discussion. At least I think it's going to be wonderful because I've met all five of the participants in tonight's symposium. I really would like to just get right into it by introducing everybody who is on the panel tonight. I'm going to do it in alphabetical order because different people show up on different screens in different order. So let's begin alphabetically with Elizabeth Breck, who was a licensed private investigator in the state of California, working primarily in the field of insurance investigations. In 2013, she went back to school, earning a bachelor's degree in writing, summa cum laude, from the University of California, San Diego. She writes the Madison Kelly series of mysteries set in San Diego, and this year is nominated for her book, Double Take. Tracy Clark is a native Chicagoan and author of the Cass Raines Chicago Mystery Series, featuring ex-cop turned PI Cassandra Raines, a multi-nominated Anthony, Lefty, and Seamus Award finalist. She is the 2020 winner of the G.P. Putnam Sons Sue Grafton Memorial Award and a 2022 Edgar Award nominee for Best Short Story. She is nominated this year for her book, Runner. Thomas Keyes has had a long career working for newspapers and magazines, primarily in the New England and New York area. The author of the critically acclaimed Geneva Chase mystery series, he currently lives and writes on a barrier island in North Carolina with his wife, Cindy, and their Shih Tzu, Annie. He is nominated for his book, Shadow Hill. Quay Corte is a crime fiction writer and retired physician based in Pasadena, California. His novel, Wife of the Gods, made the Los Angeles Times bestseller list in 2009, and the following year, the National Book Club voted him Best Male Author. He has two mystery series set in Ghana, including the Detective Inspector Darko Dawson Investigations and the Emma John Investigations. He is nominated for his book, Sleep Well, My Lady. S.J. Roseanne is the author of 18 novels and over 70 short stories, as well as the editor of 3 anthologies. She has won multiple awards, including the Edgar, the Seamus, the Anthony, the Nero, the Macavity, the Japanese Maltese Falcon, and the Private Eye Writers of America Life Achievement Award. Born in the Bronx and now living in Manhattan, she is nominated for her book, Family Business. So let's get right to it. We had a chance to review a few things over the weekend, and we kind of agreed that we would like to start at the beginning. Every writer is different, and every writer, some of you who may be watching tonight, vicariously likes to know how other writers do it. So I'm going to throw this question out to all 5 of you, and we don't have Jeopardy buzzers, but I can tell just from your expression who's going to want to jump in first. When you're starting a new book, a new novel, what steps do you take to prepare for that book? Do you outline extensively? Do you come up with some basic bullet points, or do you just jump in feet first? Don't all start at once.
I'll jump in. I just jump in feet first and start working on the first chapter. And as I'm working on the first chapter, I might start putting some bullet points down. Usually when I start a book, I know how it's going to begin. I've got a pretty good idea how it ends. It's all that middle part that seems to get in the way. I'm not 100% sure how that all works.
All right, Elizabeth.
Well, I would say that I'm very methodical in the way that I write. Just like Tom, I know the beginning and I know the end. But my first draft is an Excel document where I sit down and I plot out every single scene in the novel. From beginning to end, and that way I can move things around, so I can make sure I put a red herring here, I put a clue there, I get down here and I realize that's not going to work, so I can move it up here without losing 300 pages of writing. But what that really allows me to do is write lyrically, because it's weird, I love mystery writing, but I write poetry, so I like writing lyrically. So once I have that plot set, I can just sit down and just write like a house on fire and let what my poetry come out.
Okay, I'm going to follow up real quickly before I let anybody else jump in. When you set it up like that on the Excel spreadsheet, do you get any surprises when things start taking off in a different direction, like the dog that just walked in behind you?
I started crying because I guess he wants more peanut butter. Yes, I get surprises. Yes, when I'm writing, perfect example, I was following my plot and she's on the phone in the car, and I just in my head while I'm writing, a white balloon came and bounced on her car, and she got out and got it, and it had a funeral message in it that said, "I'll love you all the days of my life." And she could see it because she shook it. And that was not in my Excel document. That just sort of happened. And that's the kind of thing where I mean, like, because my pacing is set, and I know where I have to be because I've figured out the wording, how many words, everything, I can let things like that happen. And so it allows me to sort of just kind of see what happens without worrying about pacing, because I got the pacing set.
Okay. SJ?
Do they really have balloons with funeral messages?
Yeah, you send them out. It's not good for sea creatures. So she actually takes it. They also do it with like lanterns, and you light them.
Yeah, that but balloons, it just seems
yeah. People
and then
don't
you set
think
the state of California on fire with them.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do it at the beach. They do it at the beach.
So SJ, because you rang in on the
now you get it. You got it.
You've written more of these than the rest of us. Has your style changed? How do you begin with the book?
The first thing I have to know is what the book is about, and I don't mean the plot. I mean the substance. Is it about family business? It was about the complications of family, how complicated all families are, whether you've chosen them or were born into them, and what those complications can produce. Once I have that nailed down, I start thinking about what kind of characters I want to use, and I use the old-fashioned notebook thing, and I literally sit and stare out the window and start developing things, and they lead to other things. And the one I'm working on now, I am interested in what do you call it? Well, child exploitation, not human trafficking, but that kind of grooming, and and I have a couple of characters who mean something to me, and the book will be set in New York. So what does that mean? And so I just sit there and I write stuff, and this will go on for a couple of weeks until I have some sense of what the idea is, but I don't make a plot out of it. I usually know something at the end, and then I have a bunch of characters and I just set them in motion, because I can't do what Elizabeth does, because I don't know what my characters might do until I see who they are and watch them develop. And I once had a character refuse to do this bad thing I had lined up for him. He said, I'm not that kind of guy.
Well,
I said,
and
"Well,
that's showing that they're actually turning into real people. They're not
Yeah.
just characters on a page, but they're real
Yeah.
individuals.
And I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep my answers short so everybody can talk, but I just wanted to say that note thing that you do, I actually do that before I do the Excel sheet, but I'm doing it on my iPhone notepad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I have notes, so something has formed. That people and ideas and things have formed before I sit down. Okay, now,
Okay.
somebody else go.
Okay, I'm going to ask Tracy the same question, and then Quay will get to you.
I'm a pantser, so I don't know anything except for the spark of the idea. So I have a PI character. My book starts where her case starts. Somebody walks through her door with a problem. And I said, when I start, I sort of know what that problem is going to be, but then that's all I know. So she follows it logically, clue by clue, step by step. And I kind of wish I had a notebook like SJ, but I kind of do this. So I have little.
I'll
Post-it
send you
notes.
one.
I have it too.
I have little Post-it notes stuck everywhere as ideas come to me. I
as a
stick
little
them
thing
on the
in the
side
back.
of my laptop. And by
Yeah.
the time I'm done, I've got like a little curtain, theater curtain of Post-it notes, with little notes of ideas and twists and beats that I have to sort of add in. But that's how I do it. I have tried outlining, but my brain just doesn't work that way. Somewhere in my foggy brain, when I write that outline, it tells me that I'm done with the book. I finished it. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I'm done. And of course, I haven't even started. So I just sort of plug along page by page, graph by graph, and I get to the end some kind of way. And it's always a miracle for me, and I'm always happy to be there.
Now, Quay, Sleep Well, My Lady is a very complex book because it jumps back and forth in time between different characters. How do you structure that sort of thing to be able to keep track of the characters and move that plot forward, which you do very well?
Well, the first thing is that I'm really I choose an issue. It's usually a social issue. And then I also choose the setting. And then after that is when I start putting things together. And I usually do a synopsis because that's the way my publishers ask me what I'm working on. So I usually say, oh, I make something up and then I send it to them, under pressure, because that's the way I like it.
Yeah.
So the social issue is very important to me because of the location I'm writing in. Ghana is a developing country, obviously, and it's a very, very complex. And there's certain things that are going on that are interesting. So, for example, in Wife of the Gods, it deals with this tradition of giving over a young lady or a girl to a fetish priest so that they can atone for a crime committed maybe generations ago and protect them. Another one in Sleep Well, My Lady, we're talking about a little bit of the fashion industry, and there's a Me Too theme there as well. So those are really important to me first. And then I think, okay, where is it going on? It may be in the capital of Ghana, which is Accra, but it also could be somewhere else. And so in the book that I'm writing right now, which I just finished the I don't know, 4th rewrite, something like that. It takes place actually in 3 countries, Ghana, Nigeria, and Niger. And the theme is, interestingly, SJ, human and sex trafficking.
Oh.
So then I write a basic synopsis, which is usually about 10 pages, but it's like a roadmap. I'm going to veer off a bit. I know the destination basically, but I may just go in a lot of circuitous routes, and that's what I enjoy the most. The surprises that happen, from the characters. And you're right. After a while, they begin to be so real to you that you're not really living a normal life.
Now this
category, it's almost schizophrenic.
Yeah, this particular category is it's the Sue Grafton Award. and Sue Grafton had a very colorful character, Kinsey Malone. And so I think all of the books that have been nominated this year and all of the authors who have written them are very mindful of characters, and the books are very character driven. How do you allow those particular characters who continue in the book, the lead protagonist, how do they grow and or evolve? Because Kinsey Malone didn't necessarily do that. Is it important to have that character do that? My publisher is asking me that question all the time. And so I'm very curious, as I'm sure our viewers are out there, how you allow them to do that or not.
I can say mine very quickly because I've only written two compared to like SJ. But for me, that's part of it that's on my notepad on my iPhone before I sit down to do the Excel document is what is Madison's arc. Madison's my main character. She has a personal arc that is separate from the plot of the story. And the reader might not necessarily, I think they'd know if it was missing, but they might not be able to go, oh, look at her arc. You know, it's just, I know what it is. And that's very important for me that she's somehow growing and changing throughout. And so for book 3, something will happen that will be something else for her.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be organic so that you can feel it rather than see it. And I mean, if my characters didn't change in some way, I think I would find them boring, because I think all human beings change in some way as you know they mature, hopefully mature, and get older.
Now, SJ, your series essentially deals with partners, and they alternate sort of between being the primary voice in each book. How do you manage that? And again, given the framework of the question, how does that work for you when you're writing the book that you're working on now?
Yeah, how I manage that, I couldn't tell you. I can just get into the voice. I get into the head of each. They tell very different stories. There's never been a story that I had to think, well, whose story is this? What I do is I start with the protagonist and I think, what is her or his concern right now? And that's what happens. I agree that they have to change. Now, for a long time, I mean, there are 3 ways you can move your protagonist through time. One is the way Sue Grafton did, where each book takes place 3 months after the one before, and eventually you're writing historicals. And that's what she did. You can do what Robert B. Parker did, which is just let your characters age along with you. And he ran into the problem. He had to create Jesse Stone because he had 2 aged protagonists in Spencer and Hawke. Or you can do what I do, which is let them kind of move through time like this. So they are getting older, but not nearly at the rate of the rest of us. But
like 1 is to 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So
Nero Wolfe did that. Rex Stout. Yeah,
you sort of have to, and so they are changing. And Lydia's relationship with her mother is changing. Lydia and Bill's relationship is changing, and the brothers are all their relationships are changing as they come in and out of the books. But people do have to change, but your audience also wants the characters they know. So
like
you
Jack
have
Reacher.
Yeah, well, your Reacher will never change. You know, Reacher was born that guy.
Now, Tracy, how about you? What's your take on this?
Well, I like the characters to change because that means growth, right? But you don't want to change them too much. So I sort of turn them maybe a half turn of a screw each book. They learn some things, they don't learn some things. I think that's how most humans are. We don't change drastically throughout our lives. We learn some things we still have blind spots about. And I kind of like to keep her flawed and struggling and mired in conflict. And sort of maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think that's sort of interesting for readers and also for me as I go through the series to sort of throw as much stuff as I can at her and see how she sort of functions. I learn more about her as I go on. When I started book one, I was a little writer walking a very big dog. And now as I've gotten to 4 and 5 and 6, the dog has gotten smaller and I've gotten bigger. So the more I learn about her, the better I get at it. The more I can sort of present her to readers, and hopefully they will sort of engage and sort of follow her through. So you learn as the character learns, and you just sort of go through as you can, as a human being, as a book person has to.
Now, so
And I
Thomas,
think the other thing is that the author starts to discover things about the character that he or she did not realize was going on.
Yes.
And they're not drastic changes. They're subtle, but they make the character a little bit more nuanced as
and that's
time
what I
goes
was going
on.
to
So,
ask Thomas
yeah.
was, Thomas, what have you learned from Geneva Chase, and what has she learned from you?
Well, in book one, Geneva Chase is an alcoholic. She's been married 3 times. She's just broken up with a married man. Basically, she's a hot mess. So she had no place else to go but up. And Shadow Hill is book 4. She stopped drinking. She has a ward. Her ex-fiance has willed his daughter. And she's raising his daughter. Now she's 15 years old. And as much as Geneva Chase grows, the daughter, the ward grows, Caroline, and she's doing things like she's got a boyfriend, and she wants to drive, and she wants to go to parties. And it's so Geneva, who started out to be an alcoholic and could barely take care of herself, is now a single mom. And I'm finding that my readers want her to succeed in life, and I can't let her backslide, because if I do, I'm afraid I'm going to lose fans. So she's growing, I'm growing, everybody's growing.
Okay,
Thomas,
so
don't you think that she could backslide a little bit every once in a while, because that increases the complexity, and when she bounces back, it's even more heroic. I mean, that's what I would think.
Interesting. It's funny you should say that, Quay, because in book 2, after book 1, she quits drinking at the end of book 1. I was only going to write the first book, and I wasn't going to write Geneva Chase anymore, because writing first person female reporter is difficult for me.
Wow.
But everybody seemed to like her. So she quit drinking in book 1, but she started drinking again in book 2, and she's still drinking in book 3, but she makes a mistake that almost gets her killed. So in book 4, Shadow Hill, she sobered up. And then in book 5, she almost goes back to drinking again because she does something stupid. So, that growth thing, you're right. 2 steps forward,
and then the
1 step
reader
back.
really roots for them.
So this now brings me to the next question, which is only a slight offshoot of this one, and that is, how do you strike that balance between character? And we all know these days that books really need to be character driven. It's been that way for a few years, and not that plot takes a back seat. But how do you balance character and plot? What's more important to you when you're writing this book or the next one that you're working on, to be able to balance the characters that you have and the plot, the intricacies of that plot, from start to finish? How do you do that? And Thomas, since you were the last one, we'll continue the Jeopardy analogy. You can go first here.
Oh, sure. Character versus plot. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, anytime.
I think there should be an equal balance. I mean, plot certainly moves the story forward, but the characters who you remember when you finish the book. It's like with the Hieronymus Bosch books. I love Harry Bosch and his new character, Renee Ballard. But for the life of me, I couldn't remember what the last plot was, but I love the characters and I look forward to the next book. So the plot is very important, but the characters are what people are invested in, and they become family.
Who else wants to jump in here?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When people think of Agatha Christie, they can say Poirot, they can say Miss Marple. Ask them for one plot. Maybe they can give you the surprise at the end, but nobody can tell you the story all the way through. That's not why people read. You know, the thing about narrative fiction is we have to have a story, which, you know, say painters don't. We have to have something for our characters to do in the place that we're writing about. But I would say plot is a distant second to character. You have to make it work, but you have to let your characters work in that plot.
Yeah, they have to. Go ahead, Tracy.
I would agree with that, but they all have to spin at the same time. It's like the circus plate spinner. You have to keep all the plates. So you have to have dialogue, character, plot, pacing, all of that. All of the plates have to be spinning. Which is why we're so tired at the end of finishing a book, like we run a marathon or something, because we get all these little threads and all these little pieces spinning at the same speed to sort of get us towards the end. I would agree that character is probably more important than the others, because that's what readers sort of latch onto, right? They have to have somebody that they care about, somebody that they either love or hate or both. But so that draws them in. But once they're in, we have to keep all of those other things going too. So
yeah, as SJ, I liked your reference to Agatha Christie. I always found that Agatha Christie was that, I mean, you could often guess who the murderer was, but you're never going to understand the motives. Agatha will write about 10 pages at the end describing the intricacies, and you are like, what? Sorry. And then you have to go back and check it out. And but you will always remember Poirot or, you know, Miss Marple. That's the thing. You will never be able to explain how they solved the mystery.
But you'll pick up the next one because it's Poirot or Miss Marple.
Right, exactly.
That's right. All right, so we're going to just shift focus here a little tiny bit, because I know that a lot of writers, even those who are beginning in the game, those who are aspiring writers, some of those who are a few books in, all want to know about the workload and the writing habits of other writers. So how would you describe your regular workload? And I know that some are full-time writers, some are part-time writers, some have other occupations, and so they have to kind of make room in their house and also in their schedule to make this work. But, you know, how do you deal with your workload? How important is discipline? And you know, do you set a certain number of pages a day, hours a day, a scene a day? When you're writing, what's that workday look like? And I'll just let whoever rings in first.
I'll jump. I think it probably depends where you're at in your success of your books. Probably, so we probably run the gamut here. But I can say that you could probably tell from my Microsoft Excel document, I'm very disciplined in my writing. And it started because I went back to school to get a writing degree, and I was running my PI business because, as we mentioned, I'm a licensed private investigator. So from Friday, I think Thursday to Monday, I would travel and do surveillance and work cases. And then Tuesday through Thursday, I had to come back and go to school. And I had 2 pages due for every single writing class. I had 4 writing classes. So I could not wait for the muse to hit me. I had to sit down at 5 a.m. and write 2 pages for that class. And then later in the day, 2 pages for that class every week. So that has carried over into now that I'm not in school. Much easier. So I get up in the morning and I sit down and I write. It's just, it's like a job.
Okay. There's 4 other writers here.
Well, I'll jump in. I actually have a day job. I'm the full-time president of our county's Chamber of Commerce, and I sit on a number of different boards because of the Chamber of Commerce, and I teach creative writing over at the community college 1 night a week. So I have to try to find time to write, and sometimes it's in the evenings, mostly on weekends. That's all I do on weekends is write. So I have no real social life other than the Chamber of Commerce, and that's okay. I enjoy writing. It's but you've got to try to squeeze it in.
Okay, Tracy, you're a newspaper editor too. How do you balance the workload?
Well, I sort of write like the Dunkin' Donuts guy makes donuts. It's always time to make so my time is 5:30 to 8. 5:30 to 8. That's all the time I have for the day. 8 o'clock, I swivel over and I have my bowl of Cheerios, and then I sort of hit my day job. Now, if I come up with ideas during the middle of the day, that's where the Post-it notes come in. I write that little idea down and I put it on my laptop for the next time at 5:30 in the morning. So that's my schedule. I've tried to alter it. I cannot write in the evening because my brain is fried. So 5:30 to 8 every day, including Saturday and Sunday. And if I get sick or something, Lord knows, it throws me off completely. But that's my thing. 5:30 to 8, Cheerios, day job. Next day, 5:30 to 8, Cheerios, day job. It's a racket. It really is. It really is a racket.
7 days a week?
I try 7 days a week. There might be the occasional Sunday when I can't do it. I'm stuck in a corner. I've written myself somewhere that I cannot find a way out. And I have to sort of ruminate a little bit until I find a direction. So there might be the occasional Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday where I'm stuck and I have to wait until I sort of figure out how to get out of it. So that's what pantsers do. We're probably going to die early, but that's how we have to.
You'll die early, but you will have lived a very full life.
A full life, yes.
Okay, and Coy, what's your routine?
Well, when I started the Darko Dawson series, I was still in full-time medical practice. So don't ask me how I juggled it because I don't really remember. But in general, I would say I was a morning writer. I would write before clinic, and then Wednesday was my day off. I didn't go golfing, but I did write. And then on the weekends, what I started to do up till 2018, when I retired from medicine to write full time, was that I gradually let people know, including the administrators, that I was pulling away from medicine. I warned them all. And I said, in another couple of years, I'm probably going to be leaving. And everybody was cool with it. So that, when that day came, it wasn't such a shock. But I'm still more of a morning person. The only time I stay up really late is to beat a deadline, which was last night. I went to bed at 1 a.m. So, which is way past my bedtime.
No, I totally understand that. Tracy, you mentioned something just a second ago, and it wasn't exactly writer's block, but you came up, you said something about it on a Sunday or whenever, if you come up against something that that you have a hard time with, there's a way to deal with it. We talked about this a little bit when we spoke a few days ago, but everybody, I'm sure here, has hit that point sometimes when either they don't know what the next scene is going to be, or they don't know how to work themselves out of a problem. What's the remedy for each of you when you hit that wall that you can't decorate or go over or go around? How do you deal with it?
Well, let's see. There's pacing. I usually go for a chocolate chip cookie. But I just have to sort of think about where I left the characters and where I need them to go. And sometimes it sort of takes a minute for me to sort of go back and just think about how the front part of this novel has sort of paced itself. And whatever corner I've sort of gotten myself into, there's an out. I just have to find it. So I'm thinking about character. I'm thinking about where this story has to go. I'm thinking about what the central premise of this book is, and I have to serve all of those things. So it just may take a minute after I've sort of painted myself into this corner to sort of think about all of those important things, and then an idea will eventually come to me. I'll have a way out, a direction. Maybe a new character will show up. That's how I sort of ended up with this pickpocket in my series Pouch. I needed something for a scene, and this little 4-foot monochromatically dressed pickpocket showed up at her door. I didn't expect him to come. I didn't plan for him to be there, but that sort of got me to sort of go this way as opposed to that. And so that sort of got me out of that thing. So sparks of ideas come. That's how pantsers do it. We don't have a plan. We're just, it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall and just to see what happens. So Pouch was my out for this book. And, something else will happen for the next one.
Mhm. Who else would like to join? And
Yeah, I do pretty much exactly what Tracy does, but I do it in the notebook. I literally, I move to a different place from where my laptop is. And sometimes I just go outside to the park and I sit there with the notebook and I literally write, okay, where are we now? And I write where we are and what the problem is. The problem is in a book I wrote called Reflecting the Sky, the problem was Bill and Lydia were in Hong Kong, they knew nobody, and they had just been thrown off the case. So now what do you do? And I thought, all right, Saint Raymond Chandler said, if you don't know what to do at any point, have somebody come in with a gun. And I thought, but there aren't even any bad guys in Hong Kong who would threaten them. But cops have guns too. So maybe they can meet a cop. And that was what happened. That was exactly, so I brought this cop in who had been sent to them by the guy in New York who sent them to Hong Kong. And they were able to talk to him and the thing started moving. It's a very deliberate process of where are we? What is the problem? What can happen? The other thing is, you're taught in any number of creative writing classes to just think of the most outrageous thing that could happen now, short of the Martians landing, because that won't really help. But, and when you do that, one of those things probably won't be what you choose, but maybe you can pull back from that and think, okay, the Martians didn't land, but somebody did come up the Hudson in a kayak, that does happen. And so, I do it just like Tracy. I know there's a way out because I trust that my subconscious is working on this. I just need to bring that forward.
Yeah, sort of like the Zen solution. It's going to get there. That somehow the story continues, and then you just get to that spot.
Yeah.
I don't have so much a model of a block. I kind of think about it as I'm in a vehicle and there's no obstacle in the road, but my car won't start. So and usually there's no actual block. It's usually me. For example, if I don't think things are going well, and I'll freely admit this to you, I do get depressed. And sometimes I can't get the energy up to go back and write. I just have to come out of it and then I'm okay. But I never think there's an external block, but I think that sometimes I am dysfunctional in my writing. Like the first draft, Hemingway said that the first draft of anything is crap. And this present novel, the first draft was so crappy that when the editors sent me back my notes, it was such a train wreck that I just spun into total depression.
Oh no.
And yeah. And then I just had to come back and say, you know what, you're just gonna have to do this over again. And that's usually what gives me my energy burst.
Whenever I run into a situation where it seems like I'm facing writer's block or I've written myself into a corner, I am really a lucky guy. I live on an island and we live in a great neighborhood. So I can go for a nice long walk, get some fresh air, and usually almost 100% of the time, by the time I come back, I know what I'm going to do next, but I have to get away from the computer. I have to get away from my office. I have to get a change of scenery. And that's what kind of frees my mind up a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm really interested in hearing all these other
Mhm.
methods of
I've-
getting
I've
past the
been-
writer's block.
I've been known to move from the desk to the couch.
That's what I do.
Just to get a different view of the room.
Yeah. All right. So we're at that point in our discussion here where we've got a few questions from the audience, and I'm not going to ask them in the order that they've come in because they kind of flow with what we've been talking about. But we do have one that kind of extrapolates from that, and that is, in just a few words, what is the most difficult book, or I'm just going to say kind of scene, if you please, that you've ever written or ever had to deal with? Is there something that stands out that's been difficult for you to work your way through, either emotionally or just from a professional standpoint?
I can start with that
Okay.
one. I think the most difficult one is the one that I just finished now, which is called Last Scene in La Paz. And it involves, as I said before, human trafficking. And there were some scenes that were so intense that I burst out crying because the characters were so real to me. And, you know, what happened to them was so painful. I could almost not bear it. And so I think this present book is the most difficult I've ever written. There's just so many painful scenes in it that it was really difficult for me. It was really tough.
No wonder you get depressed.
Yeah. I
Anybody
didn't
else
have
want?
anything. I don't have. I would say that I don't have anything that's been very difficult for me to write. So there's my answer. Yeah, I enjoy the process, and I think, yeah, I mean, just, sometimes there's a puzzle, like we've all been discussing. How do I get her from here to there, and how do I get out of this to that? But nothing like what Quay just said.
Mhm.
I wrote a book early on in my series called, but which the hell book was it? A Bitter Feast. And at a certain point, I was so confused and so sure that I could, and it was early, and I could not get out of this, and it was a disaster, and this book would never happen, and I should just give up and start another book. And I almost did. And this little voice in my head said, you know what? If you do that, then when you get to this point in the next book or the book after, you'll give that one
Do
up.
the same thing.
You'll always be second guessing yourself.
Right. On the other hand, the little voice said, if you finish this book, you can finish anything.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's a good challenge. So I just ripped the beginning apart to see where I was going and all those things Tracy was talking about. And I found a thing. I found one little, it was like in the rubble after an earthquake, and there's one little and I took that one little path, and I finished the damn book, and that has happened since then, that I get to this place where I'm blocked by the wall of rubble, and I say no, there's a way out of here. I know there is. But that was the hardest thing for me, because now I have the experience. Now I can, no matter how bad it gets, I know I can finish a book, whatever book it is, but I didn't know that then. So thank you, little voice in my head.
Hardest thing for me always is dialogue, because it's so important. This is how you sort of reveal who your characters are. And it's a combination of what they say, but also what they don't say. And so I spend a great deal of time on the exchanges to see whether or not it reveals character or hides character, whether it they learn something from each other in this little exchange. So I spend a great deal of time on that. It's the hardest thing for me to do. And that's probably why some of this gray hair is in my head, because I spend so much time just on that. And then, of course, you have the other things that you have to sort of deal with. But that's critical. This is where we learn who your characters are, who they are, what they think about, what they care about, what they need, what they can't get. So all of that is sort of revealed in this exchange with whoever they're talking to. But that's where I sort of concentrate.
Yeah, and I'm the moderator here, not a panelist, but I call that the Casablanca moment, because to me, there's 14 lines in Casablanca are in the American AFT or AFI top 100 lines of all movie ever written, 14 of them. And if you can achieve something like that, if you can aspire to write such excellent dialogue, then you really have a gift. And dialogue to me is that important. But I'm not nominated for an award here, so that's just my 2 cents. But we have another member of the audience who has talked about how you've all worked clearly very hard. You've been nominated for this award, and we can talk about experience and discipline and everything. But as this person says, Marjorie says, how much of a role does talent play in your writing? I mean, you've got to have talent in order to do this. Is that correct?
Well, that makes us have to be vain.
No, there's a difference between talent and skill. Talent,
Yeah,
what you were born with.
right.
But it doesn't do you any good if you don't develop the skills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yes. And I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, because you made me think of it, I was a really good writer before I went to UC San Diego and got a degree in writing. But I was a much better writer after I graduated because so I did have some talent, but I got the skill from those classes. Now I'm muting my dog.
Yeah. And skill, a lot, working hard on your skill can make up for, a lower level of talent, whereas a very high level of talent and no skill is going to get you nowhere. So,
Yeah.
I would say, we probably all do have talent, but I think that sort of doesn't matter as a separator.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter as much, because you could be talented and also undisciplined. And we do know people who, at least I know people who are talented, but they're too undisciplined to apply it. And so it's really, really important to have that skill, and then the discipline, and then also the doggedness to continue. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I'll just add that in my creative writing class, I try to let people know that writers are good readers and they're constantly writing. You learn by reading, and you learn by writing and writing and writing. Random Road, the first book that was published, that was my 5th attempt at a novel. I just kept going because I was too stupid to stop. But I learned every time I wrote something, I learned something new, and the people who read it helped teach me. So I'm not sure if it was so much talent that I had as skills, like SJ said, and just that doggedness that I wanted to be published.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now I have another question here that reverts back to something that Tracy had mentioned a minute ago, and that we then discussed about dialogue, and that is, do you ever act out? Does anybody here ever act out the scenes that they're writing, or read them out loud to yourself afterwards to make sure that it actually sounds real?
Absolutely.
You act them out?
Never.
Well, you know something? Yeah. If nothing else, more in my head than anything else. I am a ham. I like acting. I like being in front of an audience. So for me, this is high drama. If I can act it out in my office upstairs, sure, why not?
I don't, although I do like to read out loud, not to myself, but to other people if I can. Especially if I don't know if the pace is right. But I know there are a lot of people who act out their scenes. I don't.
I mean, and I was an actress. I'm actually in the Screen Actors Guild. I was an actress before my last life. But I don't act it out. Only time I would read out loud is if I cannot figure out what is wrong with a sentence. I'm like, there's something wrong with this sentence. So I would read it out loud to try and find, it's this, whatever. But that's the only reason. But if anybody wants me to act it out, I will. No, just saying.
I act out the
With
action
me-
scenes. action scenes in your
With
head.
me, I see the book not so much as a PowerPoint, but as a movie flowing, and it's all in my head, very, very vivid, and so the action is taking place in my head. But I think if I came out and acted it, I would be coming out of that zone. So I don't understand how I would do that. You know what I mean?
I think they mean maybe read out the dialogue or something, like read it out loud.
Well,
I don't know.
I'll jump in for a second. I mean, there are some, especially during a climax when there's an action scene, where, let's say, Geneva's trying to escape from something. I'm not 100% sure that works. So I will physically try it myself just to see if it's
okay.
doable.
I see what you're saying.
You know, I'm throwing in a non sequitur read because I've been wanting to say this, that you haven't asked a character question yet, and not the one I needed to answer. I've been desperate to say this. So when I started writing Madison Kelly, my mystery series, I was so afraid people would think I was copying Sue Grafton, because Madison lives at the beach in a studio apartment. She's an insurance investigator. Okay, but I lived in that exact apartment that Madison lived in as an insurance investigator. So I was writing about myself and my life. And from that, Madison became a character, so much so that when I got to the end of the book, it took me a while, the first one, I went back to start editing at the beginning, and she did something and I was like, oh, Madison would never do that. Madison would never do that. And so like Madison had become this person, but I was like, people are going to think that I'm like copying Sue Grafton, but I'm just writing about my life from when I was younger. So it's ironic that then I was nominated for this award.
Okay, so let's go from there with the other four of you. How much of yourself is in your lead character? I'll go with you, Thomas, because you're grinning and because you write a female journalist.
Right. Actually, my Geneva Chase is based on two ladies I have worked at a newspaper in Connecticut, one of whom I am meeting in New York for lunch when we're in New York for the Edgars. And their words are in my head, and how they dress is in my head. It's not so much me as the character as they are the character, because they're both smart asses, and but whip smart, and it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
and I say that, but when I'm teaching a course, I'm saying everything you write is you. All the characters are you. The bad guys are you. The good guys are you. The side characters are you.
So Tracy, how much of you is Cassandra Raines?
Not a lot, because she's far more braver than I am. I'm sort of the Walter Mitty of this whole thing. I'm just sort of sitting there and letting her voice sort of play in my head, and I follow her wherever she goes. Now, we might share a couple of snarky remarks and a sense of humor, but that's where it ends. You sort of want your characters to be characters. You don't want them to be you. And that would be boring for the writer, I think, to sort of write themselves onto the page every single time. You want to sort of create characters that sort of leap off the page and they're their own person. That's what takes this whole thing so long for us to do. We really sort of concentrate and focus on creating sort of well-rounded book people that are not us. So maybe a little bit, but not a lot. The cast is cast, and I love following her around.
Okay, now SJ, you've got two leads that alternate. Are you a Gemini like I am, or do you just?
Oh, no, but I'm a Pisces.
Okay.
We swim around chasing our own tails all the time. I like to say that Lydia is me as I was when I was young. She's like, she's going to go out and not only does she think the world can be saved, but she thinks that she can help save it. Bill is me as I got older. He doesn't think there's very much hope, but he will help Lydia try to do that. He's much more in the John D. MacDonald mode. You can't save the world, but you can save one person. This person right here with this problem, you can solve this problem and take care of that person. So they are both me in that sense. Why one is a young Chinese woman and the other is a middle-aged white guy, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, and Quay, I just want to wrap up this question with asking you the same thing. Your books tend to be more multiple characters in them, but again, how much of you is in those books?
I think it's very hard to say because these characters are really inventions of your subconscious rather than your conscious, and that's why sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you know what's going to happen, whereas the night before you didn't. So it's your subconscious working, and I have no idea how much of it's contributing, but I am distanced from my characters, and whether they do the right thing or the wrong thing, it's them. It's not me. It's not me.
Okay. We've only got a few minutes left here, and I'm going to do two things. First of all, in 25, maybe 30 seconds or less, each of you, just going to give you a little bit of moment for self-promotion. What are you working on now that we should be looking forward to?
I just finished a book, which is the beginning of a new series, I hope. Not that I'm abandoning Bill and Lydia, but this is, it's two Chinese investigators in London in 1924.
Oh,
okay.
And there's a lot of wushu,
Oh, wow. Cool.
So,
very cool.
So that's what will be coming next. It's a co-written book with a gent named John Nee. So John Nee and I have done this bizarro thing.
Okay, very nice. Next.
book 3, Madison Kelly, mystery series, all the same, because readers often ask me, will Dave be there? Will Tom be there? Well, her eccentric friends. Yes, they will all be there.
Okay. Tracy?
I'm just putting the finishing touches on the start of a new series featuring Detective Harriet Foster of the Chicago Police Department. And it's entitled Hide, and it will release in December of this year. So
okay, very good.
Yay.
Thomas?
I've got a new book coming out on August 2nd. It's called Whisper Room. It's already out for review. And I'm working on book 6, 7 of the Geneva Chase series that takes rather than it takes place in Connecticut, this one takes place on an island in North Carolina during the middle of a hurricane.
Okay.
How bizarre.
Yeah. And Quay?
Well, yeah, as I indicated, the next Emma Jan book is called Last Seen in La Paz. And that's La Paz, Accra, Ghana, not La Paz, South America. To illustrate something about it, I'll tell you a quick funny story. One of my readers wrote to me and complained. She said, you need to make your plots less complicated. And why do you have so many characters? Keep the character and their names. I can't pronounce their names. So she's going to suffer with this one because I counted last night. There are 20 major characters in this one and at least 4 different storylines. So she might not want to read this one.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, I just want to thank you all here as we're wrapping up for this evening. And I just remind you that you can learn about upcoming panels at www.edgarawards.com. And then you can join us on April 28th on our YouTube channel for the 76th annual Edgar Awards ceremony. Now, I know that some of you have been dying to sing. I don't do that. I had a throat injury when I was playing hockey at 16. So yeah, Elizabeth, you can definitely sing us out here.
No, that's okay. We were just joking.
I know you're joking, but I'm calling your bluff here. If not,
I know. If I had music and if I had rehearsed, I would do it.
Yeah.
Well, So then
Just the
it's
pips
just
back
about
here.
9 o'clock.
And I don't have any pips. I need the pips here for me to sing Midnight.
Jay's right there.
We're pips. We're pips.
Yeah, we need the music and next time.
Next time. Okay, very good. Well, anyway, I want to
Yes,
thank
next
you
time.
all for joining us. And I really, really want to congratulate all 5 of you on being nominated for this award. A lot of folks really have no idea how much work goes into writing a book. I've talked to so many people who think you just sit in your room and you write it. It's such a romantic life, and you just churn these things out, and then you find an agent, you get published, and all the riches come. And nothing
Yeah.
really could be further from the truth, except for
True.
maybe a few lucky individuals. And so congratulations to all of you. I look forward to seeing you
Thank you.
next Thursday evening at the Edgar Awards in New York.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
joining us
See you
tonight.
there.
Guys, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Reed.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.